My name is John Parker Hammond. I was born on March 14th, 1928. What follows is a record of certain events in which I took part between the years 1980 and 1997 on an island I will call Site B. Site B was not to be a theme park, but a research station. This was where we did the real work. By 1989, International Genetic Technologies had succeeded in their design to genetically recreate the dinosaurs. It was an unprecedented accomplishment, the pinnacle of 20th century science, a work to rank with the achievements of Galileo or Einstein. But it was not all so easy or so simple as it appeared. One seldom hears the true history of such events. What happened at the place where the world changed? How it began? What were the reasons? What was the cost?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Sorcerer Dave, and welcome to Jurassic Park Trespasser. What I like to call a fascinating disaster of a game. It's not often I play games on this channel that I think are legitimately terrible, but this is one of them. It's that one exception. And while this game is indeed quite bad, I still kind of love it. I still really enjoy playing it, because it's one of those terrible games which has moments of brilliance in it. It's an interesting one. Originally published, I believe, finally in 1998 after a long and tortured development by DreamWorks Interactive. This game was definitely, I would call it the sort of the Aliens Colonial Marines of its day, for sure. The Duke Nukem Forever, or indeed the Daikatana of its day, although I think Daikatana released around the same time this did, actually, so Daikatana was the Daikatana of Trespassers Day, but it's that kind of a deal. Really long and tortured and horrible development, which resulted in a broken game that did not run on most people's computers as they existed back at the time, which eventually was patched up a bit, and eventually a very, very dedicated community of enthusiasts managed to fix it up and bodge it together and get it into a fairly playable state. Incidentally, to play the game, I'm going to be using the ATX mod, which is available on the Trescom website. Information will be in the description below if you fancy checking it out yourself. Although finding a copy of this game these days is difficult. I have a box copy from about 10 years ago still lying around, which I'm able to use for this, but good luck to the rest of you, I suppose. I can't imagine this thing's going to get republished and reboxed up anytime soon, because, as I said, it's an infamous disaster of a game. And I think we better get started, and I'll take you through it.
You're trying to reach is unavailable. Please leave a message after the tone.
Ann, are you there? It's Jill. Pick up the phone. God, don't tell me your mom was serious. You're in Costa Rica? Visiting the natives, huh? Sun, sand, and adventure? My little Indiana Ann, world traveler extraordinaire. Well, give me a call when you get back, okay? By the way, I thought you hated flying.
Auxilio, este es el vuelo CR-17. Hemos perdido poder en el mundo todo. ¡Estamos cayendo!
And without further ceremony, we find ourselves dumped here on the beach. Welcome to Trespasser, says the game. Welcome indeed. So, we are playing as Anne, a woman stranded on the island of Site B from the Jurassic Park, The Lost World. This game was put into production, I think, immediately after The Lost World was released. And our adventure begins here, apparently. Our objective is simply to try and survive on the dinosaur island and escape from it. Pretty straightforward, really. How we survived this plane crash when apparently the only part of the plane itself that survived was the tail, I don't really know. Anne's made of stern stuff, though, as we'll discover as we play the game.
Hello? Marquez? Are you there? ¿Estás ahí? He was shouting when we went down. Just trying to level us out.
Anne is not a mute character, as was the case with a lot of characters from games of this era. She does talk to herself. And the voice actress in question is actually Minnie Driver, who is relatively famous.
I don't think I feel like swimming.
Yeah, we can't go that way. There's an invisible wall. Although she does have some additional lines of dialogue if we try again.
Okay, I really don't feel like swimming. It's not like I can swim to America.
Point taken. Now then. This game is fascinating in a number of ways. As I said, it had a very tortured development. And it really was an idea for a game that was far bigger than the technology at the time really allowed for. One of the things that makes this game interesting is that it has a physics system. Yes, many years before Half-Life 2, this game had a fully functional physics system. If you compare with other games from this period, like, for example, Thief or Deus Ex, they have very, very rudimentary physics systems that aren't really physics systems at all. Like, the game has a basic concept of gravity when it comes to moving boxes around, and that's about it. But this game, it has a full-on physics system. You may have seen some of the rocks falling into the water there. We can actually pick things up, too. Well, in theory. If Anne doesn't keep dropping it, there we go. And we can throw them. And yeah, full physics. For 1998... that was an incredibly huge deal, and if I recall, the actual developers over at Valve of Half-Life 2 stated that this game was one of their inspirations. So anyway, let's head up the beach here. Past this small jumping puzzle to warm us up here. Press Q to jump. Yeah, odd sort of a button for jump, generally speaking, Q, but that's because the space bar is for firing weapons in this game. The controls are a bit odd. And yes, we can press A and D to strafe left and right. Thank you for that game. And Z to crouch. There you go. Now, if you've played Half-Life 2, you'll know that one of the things about Half-Life 2 is that the developers were very proud of their physics engine and therefore insisted on putting physics-related puzzles absolutely everywhere. This game is very much the same. As you can see, there's just physics-related nonsense absolutely everywhere here, and I should be a little bit careful actually, because some of these things, if they fall on us, they can damage us. And the game also does falling damage, and it's quite it doesn't muck about with the falling damage either. Actually, I should get up there before that fell off. Pressing and holding the left mouse button, that will bring up the arm. One of the jankiest and weirdest parts of this game, the arm. This is the arm we use to interact with the world. We can manipulate with the shift and control keys the orientation of her hand and anything that she happens to be holding in that hand at the time as well. But we only have one arm. I believe the explanation for why this is in-game is because she's broken her left arm in the plane crash, and that's why she uses one arm to do everything. The real reason for this, though, of course, is the developers originally planned for you to be able to operate both arms, and unfortunately, they just could not make that work with existing hardware and everything at the time, and so they just canned it. They were like, right, fine, whatever, we'll use one arm. instead. I can actually jump up here. I'm making a real pig's ear of it at the moment, but trust me, you can actually make this jump. There we go. Push these barrels off there. They never did anything to us, but I don't care. We can pick up this thing. I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's just a stick of some description. Which, as you can see, we can rotate and what have you, and throw it with the F key. And we can jump off here.
Foundation, maybe.
And we just took damage there. She didn't go, ow, like she normally does, because she was halfway through delivering a piece of dialogue there. But you'll notice that the tattoo on Anne's very ample bosom down here has changed. And that's effectively the health bar in this game. The game doesn't feature any kind of user interface at all, really. There's no heads-up display to speak of at all. It's all sort of contextualized in the game world, including our health bar, which is the heart tattoo on her breast there. Bit of a weird choice, but it was the 90s. Look at this. I'm knocking over paint cans with a 2x4. That was impressive in 1998. I know we all take these things for granted these days. But this was a big deal in 1998. Unfortunately, only about probably 1% of people around in 1998 actually had a computer that could run this monstrosity at anything approaching a decent frame rate. Mostly because of the physics system, I think, if I recall. I was one of the lucky ones, actually. But even then, I only played it after the game had been significantly patched. Feel free to practice running and jumping here until you're ready to move on. Yeah, this is a little bit of an obstacle course type thing here for us to practice moving around and jumping and running and stuff. Probably worth doing, because it's worth practicing. The movement in this game is very weird. It's a little bit delayed and sluggish and strange. You may also note that the camera occasionally shifts and moves around a little bit and sways slightly. Apologies for anyone watching who gets motion sickness from that. There's really nothing I can do about it. It's just one of many strange features of this game. Ah, here we have a classic physics engine seesaw puzzle thing here. Let's go ahead and move this crate over here. Which Anne is capable of doing one-handed, you'll notice. The crate must be made of balsa wood or something. But yes, now we can run up here and jump across to that, should we wish to. I think I might get myself killed trying to do that, though, having said that. I'm not confident I'd be able to make that without harming myself. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
It is beautiful here. Must be one of the offshore islands. Cocos. One of the Cinco Muertes, maybe.
Now, by pushing this gate down, we can get inside here, where we find some guns. Firearms can be an important survival tool, it says. They are the only survival tool in this game, I feel I should clarify. But anyway, we can, like with most other objects, we can left-click to move the arm of doom out here, and then right-click to pick something up.
6 left.
And we'll always...
Steady.
Are you finished, Dan? And we'll always know how much ammunition is in a gun just by picking it up. Don't ask how she knows this. She just does. Now, as you can see, we have to actually line up the sights to aim with the gun effectively. Usually, when you pick them up immediately, it's already kind of sort of lined up for you. But as you can see, it's actually sort of kind of not, actually, in this case. But I think with some of the guns as well, the iron sights don't even work properly anyway.
5.
See if we can make a better job of that if we... there we go. Yeah, like that-ish?
4.
There we go.
3. 2. 1. That's it. Empty.
All right, toss my gun at you. Now, I know what you're thinking, some of you. I know what you're thinking. You've already figured this out.
6 rounds.
Yes, I can confirm that if we pick up the gun, and we rotate the gun, in such a way as to, there we go. Something like that. We can, in fact...
3. That's it.
shoot ourselves in the foot. We can, in fact, kill ourselves doing that. If we really feel like doing it. And I just so happen to feel like doing it right now, so there we go.
7.
Surprisingly difficult to do when you actually want to do it.
5. 4.
There we go.
Nice one.
And she actually comments on the fact that she shot herself.
Empty. That's it.
As you can tell, Anne seems to be quite resilient to gunshot wounds, actually, as it turns out. I'm going to quickly load up our little save here. Save number 1 there is from my testing session earlier anyway, so...
8 left.
Yeah, let's... we can take this gun. Anyway, this is the Desert Eagle. We've got these revolvers here. There's a lot of guns in this game, a lot of different types of guns in this game with slightly different properties. This is the Desert Eagle. It's a relatively decent pistol. It's the most common weapon in the game, I think. We can stow that with the E key.
8 left.
And we can pick up this stonking great shotgun, which, yes, she is going to fire one-handed.
So that's what that feels like.
With no issues at all. It's also a pump-action shotgun, so again, I don't know how she's really making that work, but, trespasser logic, there it is. Anyway. We can stow this and take the pistol out again. She can stow one object on her person and carry a second one at any given time. Usually that's going to be 2 weapons, but sometimes not. I'd rather not try and... Well, I can pick up and throw a rock at a paint can, sure. There's a lot of puzzles in this game that involve throwing rocks at things. A bit of practice wouldn't hurt, I suppose.
8 shots.
Now, I'm pretty sure what you're supposed to do here is take this crate off of this larger crate and make some steps with it and jump up and over the fence. However, I've found, generally speaking, that it's much easier to just do this. Shoulder barge the gate, and it will, in fact, open for us.
Maybe if there's a phone line or a radio.
To strike with an object, pick up the object and press the space bar. Ah, yeah. Here's a melee weapon. Here's a baseball bat. Try swinging the baseball bat. We can do so by mashing the space bar key. And swinging is probably a strong word for it, really. She's just kind of waggling it. She's showing these crates who's boss. But the thing is, melee weapons in this game, with the exception of 2 special melee weapons, are completely useless. They don't do any damage to the dinosaurs whatsoever. Basically, the way damage is calculated in this game, with the guns aside, is based on how heavy and large the object is that's hitting the person or dinosaur at speed. And all of these little melee weapons have very, very low mass, essentially. And I believe the way they were supposed to work when they originally designed the game is that effectively the way it would work is the baseball bat would have a damage strip attached to it. And effectively, if you touched an enemy with it, it would do damage to them. The problem with that, apparently, is that as soon as the character went to stow it on their body like that, the damage strip would be rubbing up against the player character's body and then constantly damage them until they died, or until you took the weapon back out again. Not being able to figure out a way around that problem, the developers just decided to remove damage from melee weapons in the game entirely. In one of the many things they did in the mad rush to get this game released on time.
Engine. Some kind of... Wait. International Genetic Technologies. That was the company from the dinosaur trial. After the trial, that old guy, John Hammond, wrote a book. He said it was somewhere in Central America.
My name is John Parker Hammond. I was born on March 14th, 1928.
Oh, no. Oh, God. This is Site B. This is John Hammond's Lost World.
Indeed. She's figured it out, folks. All things considered as well, she seems to be taking it rather well, considering she's just discovered she's stranded on an island full of dinosaurs. You can use the F1 key to get hints if we need them. I'm not going to need them, generally speaking, though I know what I'm doing with this game. I've played it more times than I'm honestly prepared to admit. This game is objectively bad. It is a terrible game, it's a broken game, it's a game with many dodgy features, with an engine that's wonky and a physics engine that, while impressive for its day, is still a little bit janky by today's standards. And yet, I still really enjoy it. Thank you in part, actually, to the nice voice acting. There are only 2 voice actors in this game. Minnie Driver, in the role of Anne, who we're playing as, and Lord Richard Attenborough himself, reprising his role as John Hammond from the original Jurassic Park movie and from The Lost World. I feel they both do a pretty good job indeed, and it's honestly one of the things that makes me come back to this game, because I really enjoy the voice acting. Now then, over here, we have a rifle balanced precariously up on there. Now, I believe we're probably supposed to get it down by throwing a rock at it or something, but throwing rocks is for losers. Don't worry, it's indestructible. I might have just shot it with a bullet, with a .44 caliber bullet at that, but it'll be fine, so long as I actually find where it landed. There it is. We're taking that. 10 shots. She knows this magically, of course. This is the hunting rifle. It's one of the best long-range guns in the game.
A Nobel Prize or a financial empire waits somewhere in a darkened room, in a dirty, derelict building, somewhere in the Pacific.
The voice of John Hammond is essentially Anne remembering lines from John Hammond's memoirs that she read, basically. Although at times it can get a little bit confusing, because she sort of talks to the voice in her head occasionally, and it's a little bit odd. Another very simple box puzzle. Nothing a bit of a shoulder barge can't sort out, I'm sure. Yeah, more or less.
Oh, man. He really did it.
Brachiosaur, oldest of our recreations by 50 million years. The only true Jurassic native.
Our first dinosaurs, everybody.
Now that is an incredible smell.
Now you're probably wondering, can I shoot them? What will happen? Well, first things first, it's difficult to aim because any time you're nearby these guys, the entire screen, along with Anne herself, shakes, which makes it very difficult to aim at anything, but we can shoot it. A little bit of blood comes out, but otherwise they kind of ignore us.
The smell of the jungle was everywhere.
I don't think they're coded to actually ever attack the player. I'm not even sure if it's possible for them to damage us. They don't appear very often in the game. In fact, off the top of my head, I can only remember them appearing here and nowhere else. Anyway, we need to climb back up here and carry on the beaten path, which we were supposed to. You'll notice, by the way, that the game has a pretty well, pretty extensive draw distance, actually, for a game released in 1998. You think about a game I've played a lot on this channel, Morrowind, which was released in 2002. Its draw distance was much shorter than this. Now, admittedly, they get around that a lot by using sprites for just about everything, 2D sprites, which then pop in as 3D trees as you get closer, as you can see. A technique that obviously would go on to be used in a lot of other games, like The Elder Scrolls Oblivion, for example, a game I've also played a lot of on this channel. That's the thing about Trespasser at the end of the day. It was incredibly pioneering. For everything it got wrong, it also did something really cool. I spy another box puzzle up ahead. The game wants us to throw a rocket in. I could just shoot it, but I'm going to oblige it. There we go.
8 left.
Now, the awkward thing about these bigger guns is that it's very easy to accidentally drop them by bumping into something like these crates here. Best case scenario, Anne will just drop it out of her hand immediately and you'll have to pick it up again. Worst case scenario, it will disappear into the geometry of the level and be gone forever. It's probably about a 50-50% chance of either happening. Things like to disappear through other objects in this game.
8 left.
In fact, speaking of things disappearing through other objects in this game, I have streamed this game before on my Twitch channel. Part of the reason I'm doing it again here on YouTube is because I noticed that the old VOD for that playthrough has disappeared. It's gone, and nobody can watch it again anymore. So I'm doing this again for posterity's sake, really, more than anything else, and I just wanted an excuse to go through this awesome game again. By awesome, I mean it in more the literal sense. An awesome disaster as well as an awesome achievement, I suppose, in many ways. But anyway, if you did watch that original Twitch stream, you will remember the infamous Box Raptor. I wonder if it'll happen again.
I knew all along this was a stupid idea. They're probably out drinking right now. And who?
Now, if memory serves, we're about to encounter our first actual enemy of the game. I'm going to try and make sure my sights are lined up more or less as they should be. Within reason. Yeah, there's a gun on the floor. It's never really a good sign when Trespasser gives you a gun like that. It usually means that something nasty is nearby. And there he is. We got a glimpse of his tail there. That is a Velociraptor, ladies and gentlemen. He's looking at us with some confusion at the moment. He looks a bit drunk, I know. If we don't put him down quickly, though, he will try and kill us. A bit of a far cry from the scary beasts of the movies, it has to be said. He's a little bit sad and pathetic by comparison, but interesting in a few ways. One of which being his method of locomotion is not standard pre-rendered animations, from what I can recall. I think I remember reading a Gama Sutra article about this once. Basically, the way they did it, and some modern games do this as well. X-Anima, I think, is one of the best examples of that. But essentially, there's no pre-rendered animations. The skeleton sort of model of the Velociraptor is essentially told you need to walk forwards, and the game just tries to figure out the rest as it goes along with the tools it has at its disposal. And what this means, essentially, is that the raptors move in a very odd, drunken kind of a fashion. And a lot of their movement types and things are...
The real trick of it is still in there. In a darkened room in an empty building with a dirty floor, it waits. The flashpoint. The origin of Jurassic Park.
I wonder if he's talking about the technology of Jurassic Park itself or the technology of this game sometimes. But anyway, yes, it's what contributes to this very drunken behavior of the dinosaurs in this game. I think we can just run up here and along the seesaw, and if we do it right, jump over to the end there and we should be fine. Like so.
5 shots.
I've played this game enough times to get that right. The first time I played Jurassic Park Trespasser, it probably took me about 4 or 5 attempts to get that right.
A forest this wild, this unknown, has not been seen by any human since the great hunters of the early Pliocene.
Forest this pixelated while you're at it, John Hammond. I hear another one. Come on, show yourself. There he is. He's coming straight for us. Now, the dinosaurs have very basic behavior. They have varying levels of aggression. Presumably supposed to... There we go, one-shotted. I told you this gun was pretty good. Supposed to represent how hungry they are, I believe. Some raptors you'll encounter will have maximum aggression and they'll chase you to the ends of the earth trying to kill you, while other ones will be a little bit more cautious.
Velociraptor, a small theropod native to China and Mongolia. Pack hunter, quite vicious and quite intelligent.
Unlike my good self.
Place. This used to be just an urban myth.
As I walk my gun barrel straight into a tree. Welcome to InGen Site B Research Facility. And, of course, more ubiquitous fuel barrels and crates.
4 bullets.
In fairness to the game, it's not just this game that loves the crates. In fact, we don't need this gun anymore. We're about to end the level. But yeah, it's not just this great game that loves crates. Crates seem to be a thing in 90s video games, just in general. Thinking back to Thief 1 and Thief 2 and Deus Ex. Absolutely filled to the brim with crates.
Welcome to the city of tomorrow.
There's a note here on the wall. Atherton Causeway, transit from the town of Burroughs to South Beach and Visitors Centre. Opens 15th of March 1990. Now, of course, this game came out in 1998, but you will recall that, I believe, in the original Jurassic Park movie was released in 1993, but it was set in the 80s? I think 1987 or something like that, so the timeline's a bit screwy.
Welcome to Site B, an InGen research facility. For centuries, mankind has wondered about the dinosaurs, the largest land animals ever to have lived. Now, thanks to breakthrough technologies...
So much in this game is an unintentional metaphor for the development of Trespasser. Well, we'll carry along on this monorail bit, and then we'll jump off the end here, and that'll be the end of the level. As soon as I make this jump, of course. There we go. Right on cue there, the game managed to throw me into an infinite loading screen of death. I had to restart the game, replay that entire first level, and now here we are. That's a lesson for me. I should really save more often. Like now, for instance. But also a testament to just how buggy this game is, even after all of the patches and all of the fan patches.
8 shots.
You may notice that we don't get to keep our guns as we transition from level to level. That's why the game handily gave us another Desert Eagle there. And if we go over here, we can see another Velociraptor lurking over there in the distance. Now, this gentleman, I believe, doesn't have particularly high aggression. I don't think he'll engage us directly head-on straight away, if memory serves. I could be wrong, though. I'm heading over here because sometimes when you play this game, I was kind of hoping it would happen this time, but sometimes when you play this game, this little pool of water here gets severely bugged out. And you get a kind of weird gravity phenomenon in the middle of it, where if you stand in the middle, you start to float up into the air. Sadly, it didn't happen this time. I just got a boring infinite loading screen. The fun bugs never happen when you turn the camera on, it seems. Anyway, we saw that Velociraptor there. He kind of came and checked us out a bit. And then he wandered back over there, and now he's coming back again. Let's see what he does. Yeah, no, he's very skittish, this one. In fact, I suspect if we keep going this way and just kind of leave him alone, he might leave us alone. It depends. Yeah, he's wandering off again. It'd be nice if he left us alone, because obviously it would save me some bullets.
An idea brought me awake one morning in New York. I almost didn't write it down.
Yeah, he's still looking at us. He's still following along, but he's keeping his distance. Some elements of the AI dinosaur's behavior is still in the game. This is probably a good example of it. The developers had lots and lots and lots of very ambitious plans for this game, one of which was to have very intelligent dinosaurs that fed and drank and hunted and did all these wonderful things, which again is possible these days with today's modern technology, but back in 1996 when they started work on this game, it was a little difficult to implement realistically. As you can see right now, he's having a great deal of difficulty with that downed tree. He just can't seem to figure it out. Anyway, we'll leave him behind for now.
What if a mosquito sucked the blood of a dinosaur 100 million years ago? The insect is then covered in tree sap, which, over the millennia, becomes amber.
That's a third type of dinosaur we encountered in the game. That's a Stegosaurus. He's pretty friendly. He'll leave us alone.
The insect is preserved perfectly. But you see, and here's the clever part, wouldn't the dinosaur blood be preserved as well?
Now, what's interesting is that the dinosaurs will fight each other. There's a Velociraptor here, right on cue.
Blood holds DNA, a tiny spiral of genetic code. Abracadabra.
Yep, come on this way. Now, in theory, he should be attracted to the larger Stegosaurus and attack that instead. Now, sadly, as this happens, he's probably going to kill the poor Stegosaurus, because the Stegosaurus, obviously in real life, we suspect, used those tail spines of his to inflict a lot of damage on nasty little critters like this. But unfortunately, in Trespasser, the poor guy is just too stupid. He really won't be able to figure this out. Unless the raptor somehow accidentally runs straight into those spikes on the back of his tail. I think it's not going to happen, and the raptor will eventually kill it. But you'll notice how he's completely occupied with the Stegosaurus now, and he's more or less ignoring us entirely. Might as well leave these two to it, I suppose. Best of luck, Stegosaurus. Good way to save ammo, at least. And another box puzzle. Lovely.
Sunlight angled down through the dusty air in Norman's office, and I leaned against a solid oak table as I outlined my plans for international genetic technologies.
That did the trick. I felt happy to waste that bullet on account of this being here.
6 rounds.
This is another revolver. I don't know exactly what type of revolver it is. I'm not much of a gun person, but all I know is it's quite good in this game. It does a fair amount of damage. We should probably occasionally watch our backs to make sure Mr. Raptor hasn't come back for more. Well, for a second helping. Interesting thing, this is a helmet. If you stow this, Anne does in fact put it on her head. I don't believe there's any benefit for her actually wearing a helmet. But there it is. Anyway, let's move one of these boxes over here, like so. And slide into this gap. This happens a lot in this game. There we go.
Six rounds.
There we go. So why play this game? Why let's play this game here on YouTube if it's such a disaster? I think I can really reiterate what things that I've already said. I just think it's a fun game. I really enjoy playing it. I first played it back in the late 90s myself. And with a computer that could actually run it relatively well, I really enjoyed it. And more than that, I think I really enjoyed the concept, the idea of a kind of sort of survival horror game in a way, set on one of the islands from Jurassic Park against semi-intelligent dinosaurs that try and hunt you down with limited resources to fight them with.
Ambition born 50 years ago. 50 years struggle come to this.
Apologies. Hammond likes to randomly interrupt me with dialogue there, and I sometimes forget where it is and don't remember to shut up in time for it. I don't typically like to talk over the dialogue when I can.
InGen standard safari vehicle. State of the art.
You spared no expense, eh, John? I believe. Can I pick these up? Are these too big? I think they're a little too big. Maybe we can just shove it over. Nah, it's a bit heavy.
8 shots. 7.
Ah, but bullets can succeed where the trusty shoulder fails. Now, if we were to actually drop that on a dinosaur, this thing actually does have enough mass to kill a dino.
The hunters scattered, their prearranged hunting routes forgotten. Only a third of their number appeared at the rendezvous.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. I'm not gonna make it back from here, am I?
I think the reality is starting to dawn on us slightly.
10 shots.
But we got a nice hunting rifle out of the bargain. A hunting rifle and a panic attack, you know. Ups and downs. Silver linings. Gotta stay positive, Anne. Anyway, yes, I'm playing this game because in spite of everything that's wrong with it, I really enjoy it, and I think it's got a few things right. And it pioneered a lot of stuff that came after it, too. It's also a game from a period in my life where I first really got into PC gaming. The late 90s through to the very early 2000s. And this is one of the many games I played back then, and I eventually hope to cover a great deal of those games on this channel. It's a bit of a side project of mine that I've decided I want to cover in 2020. Looking back now, about 2 decades later, at the games which really formed my background as a PC gamer, I suppose. This is the first one. There's a few others. I've already mentioned them in this video, in fact. Now, there's a shotgun in there. It's not a particularly great weapon, that one, actually, but I'll try and get it anyway. Right after we've dealt with this sneaky little fellow.
9.
The hunting rifle is pretty excellent. Perhaps Muldoon might have lived in the movie if he'd had one of those. Now, I don't know if there's a way to get these boards out of the way without shooting them, honestly. Come on out. Just batter them a bit, perhaps. Yeah, we apply enough force, it'll get rid of them. There we go. Come on, Crate. Out of the way. There we go.
Looks like 7.
There we go. Another pump-action shotgun, which, as you can see, as it clips through her forearm there. Again, I'm not sure how she operates this with only one arm. What's an interesting fact, I suppose, these days, really, is that the whole one-arm thing needn't have been a problem if the game was made these days. In the days of VR and VR motion controllers, you could do this game with 2 arms. It wouldn't be a problem. And that's really at the heart of what the problems with Trespasser are. Ideas that were just a little too far ahead of their time. That's a good example of one of them. I don't know what's going on with the road here. It seems to go straight up a sheer cliff face, almost. We can go through that way, or we could try and go up and around. I'm going to go this way, though. Our 4th dinosaur. A Triceratops. And as you can see, he's got company. It might be worth us trying to avoid this. Now, the interesting thing about the Triceratops here is it might actually stand a chance of killing the raptors. In fact, I think it just did. I wonder if it'll get the other one. Sometimes it wins this fight, sometimes it loses. We want to keep our distance too, because the Triceratops, unlike the Stegodon, is not 100% friendly. It can kill us. Looks like this Velociraptor's fairly smart, though. He's trying to stay behind it. Yeah, he's nibbling away at the tail. See the little Velociraptor that could? Little Velociraptor that could get stuck on the corpse of his friend, I suppose. Are you going after him or me? Make your mind up. Interesting thing, of course, we know about the Velociraptor these days is that, one, the Velociraptors as they were depicted in Jurassic Park weren't very accurate. Actual Velociraptors were much smaller. This guy's more of a Utah Raptor, I think. And of course, the other thing we know these days is that dinosaurs most likely had feathers. The Velociraptor here being probably a good example of a dinosaur that probably did have feathers. But admittedly, they don't look quite as scary with feathers. At least, not to me. There you go, I just did you a favour. Now please don't try and kill me. I don't know if we can kill the Triceratops by shooting at it, honestly. I've never tried. I don't particularly feel inclined to put it to the test. Some nice waterfall down here. And by nice, I mean somewhat ugly.
I rode south along the coast. Bus stations in the early morning. Eating vending machine food in the fluorescent light. Stepping out of the bus in Mexico City. I shouldered my knapsack. Felt the heat wash over me. It was good to be alone. To be nobody for a while.
One thing that's worth noting, actually, is that the game does have these nice water ripple effects. Now, I played plenty of other games from this era, specifically games that came out in 1998, like Thief, for example. And none of them had water effects that were quite as good as this, although now it is slightly glitching out and is going all pixelated and weird. You see, I try to compliment this game and it just makes it worse. It's actually getting worse. Oh dear. This is the glitch with the water, actually, I was hoping to see with that little pool with the barrel in earlier. Interesting that we've encountered it here too. But when the water effects are actually working, they look surprisingly good for the era it was made in. As I said, I can remember games like Thief that came out in the same year as this, which had water which didn't look nearly as good. Of course, Thief was a much better game in many other respects, unlike this one. But Trespasser has to take his victories where he can get them, I suppose. Now then, we have a bit of a choice here. We can go left or we can go right. Left ultimately leads to a dead end, but there's some interesting stuff down there. Right leads to progress. We're going to go left, deviate from our course here a little bit and go explore. The game is ultimately pretty linear. It doesn't afford you a great many opportunities to go and explore as you want to. Although the levels are quite large, and there are one or two which are quite open. One of the ones coming up next, actually, after this level, is one in particular where that's the case, but generally speaking, it's pretty linear. This is one exception. Some nice spooky music to play as we come into this abandoned villa of sorts. You'll notice, by the way, the Velociraptor over there is completely frozen. He'll remain that way until we get close enough to activate his AI, so to speak. And those are some really great dinosaur bones, which are apparently solid. Hello, Mr. Raptor? Now, very much unlike the raptors in the movie, the raptors in this game really don't... They're incapable of going indoors, basically. If we retreat indoors and he was still alive right now, we'd be pretty safe in here, because the raptors, generally speaking, with one or two slightly glitchy exceptions, I think, later on, they can't get indoors. Originally, they were supposed to be able to. It will probably not surprise you to learn, but again, the feature was dropped because the developers couldn't make it work. I don't believe there's an awful lot up here to explore. There is this map, I suppose. You'll notice how tall these doorways are. Perhaps Anne's just a little bit on the short side, but there's some pretty huge doors. Ah! There is something here.
About 20.
This M14. This is a very good gun. I like this gun. Mostly because it has lots of ammunition, but also because it's just pretty good in general. It's fairly accurate, has decent range. Come on, Anne. You can do it. There we go. Didn't want to fall down there and take falling damage. you can already see the issues I was talking about with wielding large weapons in buildings and in awkward areas. She just sort of tends to bump into everything like that all the time, and she's getting a good hold of the weapon in a minute, but eventually she just drops it if that happens.
About 20.
Anyway, I think we're coming up on roughly about an hour now. It might have even gone slightly past it. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't been keeping track of the time, so that means that's going to be it for this episode. It would be remiss of me, I suppose, as I close out here, though, to not mention the fact that there's also another very good Let's Play of this game on this site. You may have already seen, some of you, I don't know. It's by a gentleman called Research Indicates, and it was from back in 2011. It's very old. It's in very low resolution, I think 480p or something like that. But it is, to date, I think, the best Let's Play of this game. One of the best Let's Plays of a game I've ever watched, full stop, actually. I recommend checking it out. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see more of this game and see his particular insights on it from about a decade ago. I encourage you to go and watch that. But nevertheless, I felt compelled to play this game for myself on the channel because I do enjoy it, and also I thought it'd be nice to offer a high-resolution, more up-to-date look at this game, with a more up-to-date version of the ATX mod and stuff like that. Anyway, that's about it for the first episode, ladies and gentlemen. I'll join you for the second one, where we continue exploring this level and keep making our way up the Atherton Causeway to the town of Burrows, which will be our next destination. Until then, folks, toodaloo.